happens to us after we die.
Okay? What happens to us after we die? So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I give you life and the good, death and the bad, in the book of Deuteronomy. You should choose life. Chamim say, this is an obvious thing. What do you mean? Good and life, bad and death. Choose life. What, yeah, did he really have to mention choose life? Here the Chachamim explain to us that Hashem is not just talking about good in this world. He's talking about life, but not life in this world. Life eternally, after you die. And death eternally, after you die. Meaning that after a person finishes their time in this world, some people die at 100 years old. Some people, like my cousin from a couple of weeks ago, die at 50 years old. Some people, like my other cousin, die at 26 years old. Last year, Hashem Yerachem. People die at different ages. Even though all of us say, every time you say happy birthday, until 120 is the minhag. Ad 120. In reality, how many people do you know that live till 120? How many people do you know that live till 100? How many people do you know that live past 80? Not many. Not many. And most of the people that live till 80 years old, usually they wanted to die already at 60 because of how sick they were the last 20 years. Meaning it's not just about living, it's having a good life. What's a good life? A life with a purpose. Now, Kadosh Baruch Hu says that after this life, there's a life of eternity. An eternity of good, an eternity of bad. There's heaven, and then there's Gehenom. There's Gan Eden and Gehenom. Gehenom has 7 names in the Gemara. One of my dear friends, Rabbi Reuven Chaim, wrote an article on Or Sameach's website and other places, talking about the different places. The Gemara in Masechet Eruvin, page 19a, gives 7 names to Gehenom. And this Gehenom, the Chachamim say these 7 names, it's not that there's 7 names for the same place, it's that these are 7 parts of Gehenom. The bad part has 7 chambers. It's like a building with 7 divisions within the building. Heaven also has 7 chambers. 7 divisions within it, in which within each division has. Why? Each one, you don't just get the good people, the one that did mitzvot, that kept Shabbat, that did all the good things that Hashem said to do. You don't just put all of them in the same place. Why? Because imagine this. If, let's say, you went to school, you did your work, and you got 65 on the test. You just passed barely. And then your friend that studied really hard, he got an 80. And then the guy that studied hard and he's a genius, he got 100. Should all of you go in the same class next year? Who agrees you should go in the same class? Who thinks you should all go into a different class? You with me? All agree with a different class. Why? The 65, he doesn't belong with the 100. Why? He has a 65 brain, a 65 effort. The guy that's 100 belongs at a different level. Maybe if the guy that studied, the guy at 65 studies harder, maybe he can get to 100, but today he doesn't belong there. Same thing here. A person lives in this world, fulfills a certain amount of mitzvot, he has a certain place in Gan Eden. If he does all of the mitzvot, he learns Torah, he does everything that's necessary, he can go to the highest level of heaven. On the other hand, unfortunately, if a person does not fix his character traits, does not fulfill the mitzvot, continues using electronics on Shabbat, continues violating Shabbat, continues watching movies that are inappropriate, continues wasting seed, and so on and so forth, then he cannot go to heaven. Why? Because in heaven, there are people that got a passing grade. 65, 75, 95, 100, and some even 105 and 110. They got extra credit. They got extra credit. But if he got a 20 on his test, he cannot go to heaven. He has to go somewhere else. And that place is called Gehenom or 7 other names. Now, what those 2 places look like is hard to imagine, because the best that you can possibly imagine in your human body is still not even 1% of 1% of 1% of the lowest level of heaven. The best thing you could possibly imagine. All the good in the world, all the pleasure in the world, whatever pleasures there are in this world, when you eat good food, when you're married to a good woman, you're married to a good man, you have money, you have all the things that people desire in this world. Let's say you take all the good in the world that ever existed, from the beginning of the world all the way to today, from all of the people, and you combine it all into one little box. All the good they ever had, none of the bad. The good food they had, the pleasure they had, the intimacy they had, the stuff they bought, the whatever they had, all the good stuff they had. You combine all of the people's stuff that's good, remove all the bad. You put it all into a little box. From the beginning of the world to the end of the world. Right now there's 8 billion people in the world almost. So just now there's 8 billion. Previous generation, about 6.5. Previous generation, about 6. Previous generation, about 5. And so on and so forth, all the way to the beginning of the world. All these billions and billions of people, and take just the good part of their life. None of the bad. And you put all of that good into one little box. That box, with all, imagine how much pleasure that is. Imagine how great that is. Just your life, you could think of a few things that are amazing, that already makes you happy. So imagine having all the happy moments of all the people in the world that ever existed. That is not even 1%, 1 hour of Gan Eden for a righteous Jew. So that is impossible for us to comprehend. That's how good it is. Unfortunately, for the wicked people that do not do tshuva, that continue in going against Hashem, the bad is just as bad. All of the bad that ever existed from the beginning of the world, for every single person, all of the diseases, all of the death, all of the cancer, all of the heartbreaks, all of the hunger and starvation, all of the bad that ever existed for all of humanity, the Holocaust, the Inquisitions, the pogroms, everything, combine it into a box, not even an hour of Gehenom. Not even an hour. So you see, Rabotai, people say that Hashem is merciful. Yes, He is. But in this world there's mercy. In this world we can violate Shabbat and Hashem will still give us a chance to do tshuva, and hopefully we keep next week. In this world, we can even kill somebody and do tshuva for it. You're alive, you can do tshuva, you can change. But once a person dies, once a person leaves this world, no more mercy. There's no mercy over there. Why? There's judgment. There's good, there's bad. You're my lover, you're my enemy. That's what Hashem says. You're my lover, that's because you kept the mitzvot. You're my enemy, that's because you violated the mitzvot. You're my lover, you have Gan Eden forever. You have all the pleasure in the world forever and ever and ever and ever. How much is 1,000,000 out of forever? Nothing. It's not even the beginning. And you have it forever, for good. On the other hand, if somebody violates the Torah with some of the big sins like Chilul Shabbat, wasting seed, Chilul Hashem, these big things, their punishment, according to the Gemara, Maseret Rosh Hashanah, page 17a and also 16b, their punishment is forever. It's a very, very scary punishment. So that's why, Rabotai Yekarim, it's not worth it to have even the best pleasures of this world if they're going to get us to a place we don't want to be in. It's much better to take the things that Hashem said seriously, apply them to your life, and see that not only you're going to benefit by getting heaven forever, but you're actually going to live a good life here too. Better than anybody else that you know. But it requires a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more effort of why we're doing what we're doing. And that's part of the point of these shiurim.